Could anyone have imagined that the ruler of half the world would barely be able to chew a piece of bread? Charles II ruled over a vast empire: Spain, Naples, Sicily, the Indian colonies, Austria, and Burgundy. His possessions were so great that it was said that the sun never set on his empire. But every morning, his servants had to cut his food for him as if he were a baby. The most powerful man on earth could not feed himself. And what was truly astonishing was that this was not the result of an illness or injury. It was the result of a 300-year genetic experiment conducted by his family through intermarriage. Imagine Madrid in the year 1700, a luxurious royal dining hall with gold cutlery and thick silk napkins, the aroma of baked quail brought from different corners of the empire. Charles II sat at a massive mahogany table, his mouth twisted, saliva dripping involuntarily. His jaw protruded so far that he couldn't close his lips, and bits of food fell back onto his plate. At 39, he needed help even to eat breakfast. Servants moved around him with practiced precision, averting their eyes. They had learned not to look at the emperor's daily humiliation. His personal valet, Don Manuel, carefully dabbed his chin with a napkin, as if caring for a beloved but fragile old man. Ambassadors from other countries returned to their courts with tales of horror. They could barely understand the king's words. His tongue was too large for his mouth. Contemporaries described his face as more like a Gothic gargoyle than that of a king. This was the man who ruled the silver mines of Peru, the bustling ports of Naples, the golden halls of Vienna. He owned most of Europe and the New World, but he couldn't cope with basic human functions. How did this happen? How did the most powerful family in Europe come to this? Just 2 centuries earlier, this same family had produced Charles Theodulf, a colossus who conquered the Aztec Empire, controlled the Mediterranean, and shaped the destinies of entire nations. The name Habsburg meant power, intelligence, and divine right to the throne. And now their heir could not even pronounce his own name clearly. The answer lies in the most dangerous love affair in history: the Habsburg family's 300-year romance with their own blood ties. The journey through 16 generations of European monarchs will reveal not a world of battles and conquests, but a family that made the same fatal mistake over and over again. They considered their DNA too valuable to share with outsiders, and each new marriage exacerbated the problem. Each generation paid an increasingly high price until finally the debt was paid in full in that Madrid dining room. Meet the kings who couldn't control their own bodies, the queens who wandered Spain with the decomposing bodies of their dead husbands, the children born with defects so severe they couldn't survive outside the womb, the artists who captured the genetic disaster in real time without even knowing it. By the end of this journey, it will become clear how blood becomes poison, how political genius turns into genetic tragedy, and how the pursuit of purity leads to the most unpredictable and destructive consequences. This is a story about what happens when a royal family decides to keep its blue blood pure, placing power above the laws of nature and ignoring the most important rule of genetics. Diversity is the key to survival. Their 300-year experiment ended with the last breath of Charles II in 1706. No children, no hope for the future, no descendants. The Spanish Habsburg lion ceased to exist. The most powerful dynasty in European history was destroyed by its own legacy. Welcome to the greatest genetic disaster ever documented, the curse of the Habsburgs. But every scary story begins as a fairy tale. If you enjoy these calm stories about history, please subscribe to the channel. It's free and helps me keep going. Every scary story begins with a fairy tale, and this one is no exception. Imagine a young king whose eyes are not fixed on the battlefield, but on a map of Europe, where he circles kingdoms not for war, but for marriage. This was Maximilian I, the man who accidentally doomed his dynasty to eternal trials by discovering that wedding rings could conquer more than swords. In 1480, in the Alps, in a small Austrian principality, Maximilian faced serious threats. In the west, he was constantly pressured by powerful France. In the east, the Ottoman Empire was expanding, and the German princes could not agree on anything, constantly arguing over the smallest pieces of land. Instead of following in the footsteps of traditional monarchs and creating armies, building siege engines, and depleting the treasury with endless wars, he made a brilliant discovery. Marriage is cheaper and more effective than military campaigns. Why risk the lives of thousands of soldiers and spend money on siege weapons when you can open the gates of an entire kingdom with a single marriage alliance? Maximilian looked at the political map of Europe and saw not a battlefield, but a huge puzzle that could be solved with ties bound by rings. He started small, marrying his son Philip to Joanna of Castile. One wedding, and the Habsburgs gained a claim to Spain. He then arranged the marriage of his grandson Charles to Isabella of Portugal, adding another powerful kingdom to the family portfolio. Unlike other rulers who decided the fate of nations through war, Maximilian chose the path of marriage. This family motto became not just a pun, but the foundation of a strategy that would change the geopolitical landscape of the old world forever. The results were staggering. Each family connection added land, wealth, and influence without a single shot being fired. The treasury was replenished without being depleted, and other royal houses began to emulate the Habsburg tactic, turning Europe into one big family party. By the beginning of the 16th century, choosing a suitable spouse had become a matter of genealogy. Marriages between first cousins became the norm, and second cousins were regarded almost as distant acquaintances. Marriage outside the family network seemed not only unnecessary, but even risky. Why not preserve the purity of blood in a system that worked so well? The Habsburg family tree gradually turned into a ladder with few branches, but that didn't bother anyone. The strategy was unquestionably successful. The dynasty expanded with each generation, its influence stretching from Spain and Austria to the Netherlands and parts of Italy, including vast territories in the New World. The Habsburgs reached the height of their power under Maximilian, who died in 1519, fully convinced that he had created an eternal formula for power. His grandson, Charles V, inherited more land than anyone before him. The success of the genetic experiment was impressive, but in this political game, they missed an important lesson. Playing with heredity is a road with consequences, because DNA always leaves its mark and ultimately has the final say. At that moment, it seemed that Maximilian had created a true god among men, a 16-year-old ruler who had inherited half the world and possessed the mind to rule over this entire empire. Imagine such an heir, a true king pilot of the era, whose hereditary capital included Spain, Austria, the Holy Roman Empire, the Netherlands, parts of Italy, and most of the New World. All this opened a new page in European history, when power ceased to be measured by the size of armies and became a matter of family alliances and marriages.